coexist in a case scenario wherein if it coexists and I'm trying to get a divorce, am I going to just go to the court, get my divorce there, and go back to the family to get my bride price? Or if I get just the bride price, I will officially divorce? Or do I need just the court wedding and I don't need the bride price? Why do Nigerians get married 3 times? Is this something you have thought of? Like, why do we get married 3 times? Welcome back, guys. This is Madness in Nigeria Living, and I'm your host, Gesi. I know the multiple marriage dynamics is not unique to Nigeria, but I can only talk about my country, of course. What I want to talk about is how fascinating it is, since the vast majority of my audience fall within the age bracket of 24 to 35. I'm assuming the vast majority are not married yet, but in that stage where everybody asks them, when are you getting married? The question here is, if you are getting married, which are you going to do? See, in Nigeria, or at least in social studies, they taught us that there are 3 types of marriages in Nigeria. We have the court wedding, the religious marriage, and the traditional marriage. Under the law, though, are 2 types of marriages, which is customary marriages and statutory marriages. It's very important. The way it works, or the way it was taught, is if you choose to do one type of those marriages, is recognized by everyone as you are married. But that's not the reality of Nigeria. The reality is, if you do one type of marriage, usually people that are sentimentally invested in the other type of marriages do not recognize that marriage as marriage. So why am I talking about marriage? I was having a conversation with my friend, and I was talking about how his sister got engaged and is looking forward to stressing the sister's husband to be. And I'm like, why? He said it's just part of the tradition. It's normal. You have to stress him so that he knows what he's coming for. I said, cool. Then I said, if I'm to get married, I'm only going to get married to a woman who have the mindset that if either of the family, my family or our family, decide to stress both of us, we'll just do court wedding and keep it moving. And I was like, that's wrong. I'm like, what makes it wrong? That's this podcast. What makes it wrong? So what makes it wrong? I said in the court of law, there are 2 types of marriages, which is customary marriages and statutory marriages. There's a lot of legal debate on if one supersedes the other, because typically in Nigeria, people get traditional marriages first, which is a customary marriage, and then get the court wedding or white wedding, which is the statutory marriage. To note, even though religious marriages were taught to us as, if you are Islamic or if you are Christian, in Nigeria, Islamic marriages are actually under customary marriages, whereas your typical Christian marriages are under statutory marriages. So it goes to show the role colonialism plays in how we see marriage. So for a lot of Nigerians here, it's one thing for us to understand that our colonial masters showed their own tradition as the way to get married. Then it's another thing for us to do it. But it's not that easy, The reason it's not that easy is colonialism didn't just come with a system. It came with a religion which about half the population of Nigeria practice. So when you look at something like the white wedding, or in this case, I'm going to say Christian wedding, you see a situation wherein we have churches like the Catholic Church that can legally marry you. I mean, they can give you marriage certificates. It goes to show that it's not just the fact that colonialism proposed their system of marriage. It's tied to our beliefs. So part of our marriage right as of right now is pastors coming to bless the newlywed. On paper, all these marriages can be very simple, can be very simplified. Meaning, in your typical white wedding, in this case Christian wedding, I don't know so much about Islamic marriages, but in your typical Christian marriage, you just need the two people getting wed and two witnesses. In your court marriage, similarly, you just need the two people getting wed, one witness from the man's side, one witness from the woman's side. In your traditional marriage, you just need witnesses of usually the parents of the two people getting wed, meaning on paper, some traditional marriages don't even need the two people getting wed, they just need the family. This goes to show that our marriages can be very simplified. But in reality, or at least in the reality of right now, Instagram era, is these marriages are not just done in the we're just getting married. There has to be a celebration. When I was growing up here, the introduction was done in a very simplified way. I'm getting married to a woman. I go to see her family members. Her family members come to see my family members. It's usually very intimate, very quiet. These days, we have like 4 celebrations. We have the introduction, which is a big celebration. We have the church wedding or white wedding. It's conflicting. Yeah. And I will go back to the conflict later on. We have the court wedding. And we have the traditional wedding, all of which are usually big celebrations. Now, for the conflict of white wedding and church wedding, the conflict is interesting. Why it's interesting to me is this. Some churches can give you your certificate, which translates to if you do the church wedding in the church like the Catholic Church, you don't need to do a court wedding. A Catholic person that gets married to another Catholic person doesn't need to go to the court. They just get their wedding certificate and maybe they do their traditional wedding. But no, that's not how it works in Nigeria. The normal consensus is this. It's not just having the church wedding. We now have the white wedding, and by the white wedding I mean the white celebration, which is just basically a party. What does that do? So as not to sound like a broken clock, because a lot of people critique the overspending for weddings and there are a lot of studies around it. I just want to say this. It's typical here for you to hear a Nigerian person says, the boy get money, why he never marry? At first, more like it, at first I thought that mindset comes from the fact that with money, you set up your family and you start growing the family. You need money because you need to grow. When you need to get prepared when you have your kids and everything. But as I started learning recently, the money they were talking about was actually setting up the wedding, and so much so that a lot of people take debt just to set up their marriage. What this our trying to combine white wedding with our traditional wedding does is it increases the financial burden on the Nigerian people, which, mind you, are proper poor. So in a country where the average person is poor, because I don't believe we have a middle class, how come we try to do so many celebrations? I can see it as a way to escape from our reality, our brain reality, and in those few days you feel like a prince, you feel like a princess. But is it harming us? Because if you start your marriage with debt, I can see how that harms us. And more so, it has never made sense to me. Why not just use that money for vacation after marriage during your honeymoon? Why? Some people try to combine everything at once, but even that comes with its own cost. They're trying to combine everything the same day. They go to the church, they do the traditional same day, usually changing multiple outfits. The stress. Why? And more importantly, the Nigeria institution has made it so much more easier for us. If you get your traditional wedding, you can get certificate. You can get legal certificate just for the traditional wedding, which makes more sense than trying to do the white wedding. But why? Like, for me, it's a madness. I don't know if it is for sure. I'm just contemplating why. Like, why do we do it? I'm just going to keep asking why. Okay. So as not to sound like hypocritical, the idea here is we have created a new custom or created a new culture wherein we don't just get married once. We do these multiple ceremonies, not just because of the rite, but because of the glamour. It's beautiful when you see some Nigerian wedding. That's why it comes as no surprise that one of the most recognized wedding photographer in the world is a Nigerian. It comes as no surprise. When it comes to marriages and weddings, we do it right, we do it big. But at what cost? That's the question I keep on asking myself. At what cost? If you can afford it, fine, no problem. But don't feel pressured. That's what I'm trying to say. You're still going to feel pressured. You're still going to feel like if you don't do the traditional marriage, you are not doing your bloodline right. You are still going to feel like if you don't do the white wedding, church wedding, you are not doing your religious view right. But in all honesty, all you need is your wedding certificate. You can just do court marriage, or you can just do one of the two. Like, you don't have to do all of them. That's what I'm saying. You're still going to do what you're going to do. I'm just going to highlight to you that it doesn't make much sense to do the multiple marriages, because legally speaking, once you do one marriage and you do the second, it supersedes the first. That's what our constitution says, or at least that's what our law says. And I'm going to leave a link down below to really talk about the argument of if it should supersede, if it should coexist in a case scenario wherein if it coexists and I'm trying to get a divorce, am I going to just go to the court, get my divorce there, and go back to the family to get my bride price? Or if I get just the bride price, I will officially divorce? Or do I need just the court wedding and I don't need the bride price? That was a very beautiful argument. I don't want to focus too much on that. But all I'm going to say is, if the normal consensus is it supersedes, meaning all I need for divorce is just the court papers, then why do the multiple marriages? There you have it, guys. Thanks again for coming. I know there was no episode last week. I wasn't feeling too fine. So leave a comment down below. What do you think about these multiple marriages? Do you think I'm just being overly extra? Do you think we should re-question these things and see how we can better apply it to our reality? And if you like what you're hearing, please click the like button, click the subscribe button, and share to people that you think would like something like this. See you again next week. Bye.